Unrestricted and unlimited. Talk about something. You're one-on-one with Stacey Thomas. Unrestricted and unlimited. We can talk about anything you want. Unrestricted and unlimited. Let's talk about something. You're one-on-one with Stacey Thomas. Unrestricted and unlimited. We can talk about anything you want. Yeah. Unrestricted and unlimited. Talk about something. You're one-on-one with Stacey Thomas. Unrestricted and unlimited. We can talk about anything you want. Unrestricted and unlimited. Let's talk about something. You're one-on-one with Stacey Thomas. Unrestricted and unlimited. We can talk about anything you want. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I am Stacey Thomas, Unrestricted Unlimited. Welcome to my show. And for those who don't know me, the Unrestricted Unlimited simply means don't put me in a box. And that's mainly because I have yet to see all that God has for me. And then the blessings that I receive from people that come on this platform, I must say, I have to be very thankful for. Tonight is going to be an interesting evening because I get to hear a real story told by the individual that the story affected. Unfortunately, I was supposed to have two guests tonight. The former sheriff, C.T. Woody, was supposed to be on, but because of unforeseen reasons, he can't make it tonight. But don't be sad. Maybe we can get him on the show at another date. But for now, let's focus on the story of Chip Davis. And before we get started, I want to give you... for those who have not been following what's going on with the Richmond City Jail or its employees, I've not spoken to all of the employees. Tonight is my first time speaking with Chip Davis. Anything that is said on this show does not represent Stacey Thomas or the Stacey Thomas Unrestricted Unlimited Talk Show. Okay, so we're going to start with a video, maybe to jog your memory, something you've seen on the news, or to give you an idea of what we're about to talk about, okay?
The jail is out of control right now.
It's 6.
The jail is out of control right now.
Assaults on staff. Sheriff's deputies leaving.
They feared for their lives.
Taking action, 8 News investigates security concerns inside the city jail. Thursday at 6.
Okay, so it seems to be that Chip Davis isn't the only one that's been on the local news that's actually exceeding the Virginia area or the Virginia news. So what's going on? Let's meet Chip Davis and welcome him to the show. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, and thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for blessing my platform and willing to share your story with others. Um, to get started, I'd just like to ask you, first of all, this incident happened. What we're about to talk about did not happen in 2022, Chip.
No, it happened in
So
2020.
let us know why now.
I felt the time was right. So much has happened in recent times with the sheriff's office and the jail and things that have happened that I felt it was my time to come forward and tell my story.
You should not do it.
Uh-oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
I'm sorry. Was there any naysayers in your ear saying something like what happened to you should not be shared, for one, because it was such a public thing and it had to do with a public department?
I was never told no. It was definitely made clear indirectly that I should leave it alone. By people in the department, people outside the department. Um, it was made clear to me that I shouldn't pursue getting, my story out there indirectly. I was never told directly no. I was never told don't talk about this, nothing like that. At one point, right after it happened, I was posting a picture on Facebook just of my ear, the stitches on my ear, which the news has posted, the gash in my ear, and so on. And I just said something as simple as, this is what a tough day in law enforcement can look like, and I'm glad I made it home. Well, I was called into the department. I was told I had to remove the post. So I was never told not to talk about it, but it was made fairly clear that it's something they didn't want public.
Yeah. A lot of times people want everything to look as if it's running smoothly,
Mm-hmm.
but ideally, nothing's perfect. And unfortunately, sometimes when we know things, we don't say exactly what we know because other people aren't comfortable with maybe having to answer questions or the way that it will make things look.
Mm-hmm.
That's, how I see things. Now, how long did you work as a sheriff's deputy for the Richmond City Sheriff's Department?
In total, about a year and a half. Not
A year
long.
and a half? Okay.
In the time frame of when I got attacked, I hadn't even been there a full year.
Hadn't been there for a year. Let me ask you, when you took this job, is it because you needed a job for pay, or is it a job that you really wanted to do something as far as the community or the people that were in the jail?
No, law enforcement was a passion. I started at law enforcement in another department, which I won't speak, of where, but I started in another department. And I actually started in law enforcement at almost 400 pounds. It became such a passion of mine that I just got on a strict diet. I was in the gym on a regular basis. I was doing my own personal stuff to better myself, to become a better officer. And I was taking additional trainings out of my own pocket, my own funding, to become a better person, to become the officer that I felt I wanted to be and that was needed of me. So law enforcement was a passion for me. It was a job that I cared a lot about. So coming from my prior department to the sheriff's office in Richmond, for me, was a step up. It was a stepping stone to come into a department that had a whole lot more opportunities, a whole lot more growth. And I told him in my interview, I don't plan on, making this a stepping stone. I planned on trying to move up, trying to make sergeant, trying to become, part of what that was. I even had moved into the city of Richmond shortly after getting the job to be in the community. Still live in the city of Richmond. It's not like I was making the commute in. I lived in the city. I worked for the city. It was the job. It was a passion.
Okay, so it wasn't something like you were on an ego trip. So you didn't go into this job with an attitude. You went in this job because it was your passion.
Absolutely. I was 24, 25 when I got into law enforcement. And it was a passion. A family that's done law enforcement, and for a long time they kept saying, "Hey, you're gonna be really good at this. This is something you would really be successful at." And so, I finally just took the leap of faith one day and applied to my first department that I worked for, and got hired on and made the changes in my life to become a better officer, physically and mentally. Took additional trainings, became, tried to make myself an asset.
Okay, so
good
you
officer.
went in You went in with a positive attitude. You went in, this is where I'm gonna grow.
Mm-hmm.
So when you going in and feeling like that, tell us what happened in 2020 that really threw things off course.
September 13th, 2020. I'll never forget the day. Not only because of the attack, but just because of everything that's followed since it. I was working in segregated housing, disciplinary housing, the SHU, SEG, it's called a bunch of different things. It's disciplinary housing. And I had a resident, inmate, whatever the preferred way you'd like to refer to him, out. And he had been a little argumentative, but nothing out of the ordinary for what was that disciplinary housing unit. And he was finally getting ready to go back in his cell. He was going to lock down for his time. His recreation time was up. And I happened to get dinner trays at that moment. So I was like, well, it's just easier than having to lock him down and then hand him his dinner tray. Let me go ahead and just give him his dinner tray. So he was out. He had just gotten out of the shower, I believe, or was going to take a shower. Ended up not. I'm not really sure. And he was out. I walked over to his cell with him. As he was walking in, I was to shut this door, and I noticed the trays had come in. And I said, hey, why don't you come get your tray for dinner before I lock you down, just to make it easier. So he came over to get his tray. And when I turned around to pick up his dinner tray, he picked up a broom, wooden broom, solid wood, smacked me in the back of the head, punched me, shoved me to the ground, and I went, sliding across the concrete floor. At that time, I didn't even know that I'd been punched. I knew I got hit because I felt it, and I think I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but I didn't know I'd been punched or pushed until a while later. People had told me, but I had never seen it until I finally got to see the video, and that's when I noticed that had actually happened.
Okay, so I want to stop you. I'm going to stop you right there. You did not know you had been punched.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't know. So it happened quickly. It wasn't something like you're hanging out, because someone posted under one of my Facebook posts, why did you turn your back? See, this is a whole new thing here, because you're saying that this happened suddenly. There was nothing you could do about it.
No, not at all. No, I literally, and you can see in the video, I think you have the video.
Yeah.
I turned my back, and as I turned my back and went to pick up his tray, he picked it up and hit me. There was no time frame in which I could have noticed it was coming or anything like that.
Well, I'm ignorant when it comes to jails and prisons, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you not have a partner? Is there not another officer that works, I guess, the floor that you're on?
In that pod, no. In the floor, yes, but not in that pod. That pod, because it was a disciplinary housing pod, is secured. So there's two doors to the pod. You have an inner door and an outer door that basically make like an airlock almost, so that you can open one door, let somebody in, close that door, and then open the other door. So the pod doesn't have direct access outside at any time. So the trays came in. I believe the outer door had been opened. They put the trays in, then the outer door closed, and I opened the inner door and I took the trays in, or somebody brought the trays, and I don't remember. But the trays come in. He was, I think, sweeping or finishing up cleaning his room at one point, so that's why the cleaning supplies were out. We have to supply them time to be hygienic, to take care of themselves, take care of their room and that kind of thing. So they were out for him to do normal cleaning. So
is it normal, like when you're walking around like that? I'm just trying to imagine, how it was. Is it normal when you walk around that you may have to turn your back on someone?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay.
Working in a pod with 48 cells, 24 on the bottom, 24 on the top tier. You have somewhere between 50 and 70 inmates on average. And normally when I was there was one deputy per pod. So at some point in time, you're going to have your back to somebody, whether you're doing your rounds when you're checking in cells to make sure nothing's going on and checking doors, make sure doors are locked. At some point, you're going to have your back to somebody somewhere. There's no way to be 100% all the time and never have your back. It just doesn't happen. So you just have to be aware and hyper vigilant about what's going on.
And if you have that many inmates,
Mm-hmm.
if you have that many inmates, I like just so ignorant to believe that there should be more than one officer.
Ideally, we have when fully staffed at the sheriff's office in Richmond when I was there, the ideal was you had somebody which was called like a rover who was at a desk which had cameras into all the pods. You had a sergeant on the floor, and then you had at least one person per pod, so that everybody had somebody in the pod, and you had somebody watching the cameras on all the pods to kind of cover your back in case something did happen. Being that staffing was the way it was, we normally had a rover and you had 2 to 3 people on a floor, and those people had to work multiple pods. You were bouncing around, feeding, passing out meal trays in multiple pods. And so you were very much working multiple areas at one time.
So is that called understaffed?
Absolutely.
Understaffed? And that question came to me because in researching or just reading up on, this interview, I saw that the jail was understaffed. So I'm not asking you as if you're a supervisor or if you're the sheriff. They said the jail's lacking 100, 110, something like that,
I
employees.
think that was last reported total deputies. And to put that in perspective, that's not just the jail. The sheriff office does courts. They do civil process, so serving papers, evictions. We have to do transportation to and from the courthouses. We have transportation officers. And then inside the jail, not only do you have housing units, you have laundry, the kitchen, you have booking, you have, the incoming and outgoing is separate from booking as well. You have, your special management units, which need certain amounts of people. So as a whole, you saw, I don't know, I want to say 20, 25 on shift.
Okay.
And even with that many, you still only had 3, maybe 4 people a floor on a good day.
Okay.
And that's not enough.
Okay. I want to question that, but I don't want to veer too off of your story. I'm just trying to give people an idea of what was
Mhm.
going on at that time.
Uh-oh, I lost you there, Stacy. You froze up for me, Stacy. If you can hear me, I can't hear you or see you. Guys, I'm sorry, I can't see Stacy right now. But yeah, so the floors are short, which means that response time for things is short, which makes a lot of things really difficult. For my story itself, I would say that even if the staffing had been there, it still would have been a few minutes before somebody got to me on average, just because of the way the pods are set up. After I was attacked, he ran to a cell, he shut the door. So it was nothing we could do at that point after I had been attacked, except for me to leave and go get medical care.
Please forgive me. For some reason, because I'm going to do this show, things are happening, Chip. Please forgive me for that. And I
It's
hope
fine.
still with us. So I'm going to show the pictures, okay?
That's fine.
Because I'm just wondering, how did it get to this point, really? Let's see. I'm having a time here today. Chip, can you hear me good?
Yes, ma'am. And that's just the physical of my ear. That doesn't include, I had a concussion, which still causes problems to this day with headaches.
A former Richmond
Right.
Sheriff's deputy who was
Right? Having a time over here. I'm sorry. Repeat
It's
what
all
you
right.
said.
So I not only did the ear and the stitches, which was frustrating enough, but yeah, I ended up with migraines that I still deal with to this day. They're not really migraines. Migraine meds don't help. It's more like a tension headache almost. My neck was messed up for a little while. Ended up in physical therapy for an extended period of time. Still on medication for the headache. Still on medications for sleep issues. And that's just physical injuries.
Okay.
I
So
had
let's
some other issues that I think you want to get into as well.
Okay. So I want to show these videos I don't know what's going on. Let's try to show these videos
Okay.
because I still have questions, Chip.
Okay.
been caught on camera by an inmate here inside the city jail. He provided rare and, as you mentioned, exclusive video, he says, of the incident that came from prosecutors. And as a heads up to our viewers, some of the details of this report. Curtis Perfect.
I turned my back to pick up the tray. He picked up the broom, swung it like a baseball bat, hit me in the back of the head, then punched me in the back of the head and shoved me to the ground.
Former Richmond Sheriff's deputy Chip Davis assaulted by an inmate inside the city jail.
First of all, I realized I was like covered in blood. Like head wounds bleed like crazy, the blood running down my face. I thought it was really, really bad. I kind of freaked out a little bit.
Davis assaulted in September of 2020. The inmate was charged, convicted, and sentenced. Since then, he says he's developed PTSD, has chronic migraines, neck pain, and that's after getting stitched up from the gash in his ear.
I want it out there.
Davis decided to tell us his story after hearing about the latest reported inmate assault on a deputy inside the Richmond jail, July 7th.
I want my story out there. I want people to understand what's really going on in the jail, and I want people to understand about PTSD for first responders. It's real. It's traumatic. We see a lot. We deal with a lot. And it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to get help, and it's okay to be not okay sometimes.
Okay. I'm sorry that happened to you. You said that they're understaffed. So that brings me to another point. So I'm holding conversation with someone about the interview that I'm about to have, and we're looking at the news. And I said, hey, I'm going to be interviewing Chip. And the person in the room says, well, they didn't have enough employees. So that's what's going on. And he says to me, they're not paying enough because the person on the news said they're leaving because of lack of pay. And I said to the gentleman in my presence, they knew what they were going to be paid when they took the job.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get paid when you take the job. So that leads to what's going on. Obviously something, you get hit in the back of the head with a broom. What's going on other than there's not enough people or people are coming and leaving? Can you answer that?
From my experience, again, this is just me, the people I talk to. I went into Richmond not so much for the pay. I know it's Richmond. I know Richmond can be a tougher city at times, but I wanted a department that was growing, that was building, that had the opportunity for me to grow, and Richmond definitely presented that at the time that I came in. You don't get into being a first responder, whether it's fire, EMS, police, deputy sheriff. You don't get into that job for the money, because if you do, you're crazy. It doesn't pay.
Okay.
You're not going to get rich doing it. That's not what you're there for. And if you are, in my opinion, you're in the wrong profession. You need to find something else to do, because that is not, as a first responder, what you're there for. You're there to be a good citizen. You're there to service your city. So with that being said, I knew what I was getting paid. You're absolutely right. I knew what I was walking into, and I wholeheartedly went into it with the expectation and the hope that I could get in, I could do my job, I could do it the right way, I could be a good example, and I could grow and develop. When I got there, I had asked for approval to go to trainings that I wanted to go to that would make me a better officer. Denied or ignored or never responded to. When I spoke to other people, it seemed to be an environment of who you know to get promoted, and less about who worked for it. And those frustrated a lot of people.
Of
And
course.
a lot of people left because of that.
Okay. So something's, well, only from what you're saying, I'm just going back to what I figured in the first place. Something else is going on. You go into this job with it's your passion.
Yeah.
You get there, obviously it's not the pay, and you ask for training, something that can help you do a even better job than what you're already doing, and it's denied.
Mm-hmm. I asked to go to the Virginia Gang Investigators Conference. I was already a certified member. I'd already gone through the class and got my certification. I'd already gone once, and I asked again to go. It counted towards my continuing education, or like my yearly training that I had to do, and it was denied. And it wasn't just flat out denied. I wasn't ever really told no. I was basically told, I'll ask, I'll find out, and no answer was ever given to me, and it just came and went.
Sounds like to me, maybe, how do I say this in a nice way? And it's just my opinion. Sounds like to me that, I don't know, something's not right. Something's not right. Because when you have somebody working for you, you want them to grow, you want them to get trained. Which leads to, so when this incident happened, Chip,
Mm-hmm.
okay, when this incident happened, did it bring you and whoever makes these decisions, or your other coworkers, did it bring you closer? Like, Chip's been hurt. Was something done about the inmate hurting the deputy?
I wasn't involved because I wasn't there.
Okay.
I can go off of what was told to me. He was rehoused eventually to another, more of a disciplinary housing. But that was, I want to say, the following day.
Okay.
So I was attacked. I was hit. I left the pod. And just to paint this picture appropriately, it took me almost 2 hours before I was gone to the hospital after getting hit in the head.
Okay.
And I sat in an office and waited for them to fill out paperwork. After I'd gone to medical and gotten my, ear wrapped up, I sat for probably an hour and a half, in total of about 2 hours, 30 minutes or 45 in medical, and then another hour and a half waiting for them to do this paperwork before I was taken to the hospital.
Okay. And is this when you decided to leave the job?
No, not at all.
No.
I stayed. I had all intentions of going back. I had all intentions of continuing to try to become a better person, a better officer, a better deputy, and continuing to grow. I remember coming back that night after getting out of the hospital and saying, guys, I'll be back in a couple days. Then the PTSD started. Then the not sleeping started. Then the issues of, not feeling normal, not feeling okay, having issues with, my sleep, and reliving the incident and thinking about it all the time and feeling like I was in the wrong for it happened. I reached out to EAP. I started talking to a counselor. I ended up going to see a psychologist. He then diagnosed me, and I, continued my treatment for a while after that until I got to a good place mentally where I'm able to now deal with it on a day-to-day on my own, where it's not an issue.
So I
But it
guess
wasn't easy, and
so I guess
still
and I guess with all that you've gone through and the fact that it even happened, because you weren't afforded any opportunities of training before, I'm gonna assume because this happened, perhaps your boss or whoever's in charge now comes to you or came to you, seeing that you're returning to work, maybe things got better.
I came back on light duty because I
Okay.
was dealing with everything, the headaches and the neck issues and stuff, and going to physical therapy. So I came back on light duty for a while. And then I ended up getting taken back out of work because they had me on night shift and I wasn't sleeping. I was having issues getting to sleep during the day. I was medicated to sleep and it just wasn't working. It wasn't healthy for me and it wasn't in a good medical situation. So my doctor decided night shift's a no-go. That couldn't be accommodated on day shift at that time. So I went back out
Okay.
of work completely, back on
I'm
workers.
I'm wondering,
I was out for a while.
PTSD is a very serious thing, and I want to show two other videos. It is not about the PTSD, but because of the other things that I saw on the news, I'm wondering, was there, and you don't have to tell me, was there's the PTSD and what was going on in the environment, or perhaps the what camaraderie, is that something that affected you even more? Okay.
I can say this, as deputies, I was reached out to, I was checked on.
Okay.
As supervisors, I got a call one time from somebody who said, "You're supposed to be at work." And I said, "I'm out on light duty." My email was sent from my doctor, and I was told, "No, you're supposed to be at work." And this was on the weekend. And I said, "Well, until I can speak to my doctor, I'm not coming back because my doctor took me out." Then they confirmed the email, and I was left alone. I never was called to check on. I was never, made to feel like a family by supervisors or command staff. My deputies, my brothers and sisters who I worked day in and day out with, those people checked on me. My
Is
sergeants, my lieutenants, none of them reached out to me. Nobody
is
called me,
working
nobody checked on me.
so working in the jail, is it like if you have like a state job or any other job, there's a chain of command?
Absolutely.
So with
Absolutely.
so how can a supervisor call you knowing what you've gone through to try to make you come back to work, I assume to keep your job? Did you I don't know if you'll tell me this, but did you go to your supervisor, or whoever was in charge?
I attempted to. I was made at a certain point, I was made very much feel alienated and like I was the problem. I was told at one point by people to stop worrying about getting my back pay for workers' comp because I wasn't getting paid, and to be glad that I was back and I was earning my retirement and my PTO again. I was told at one point that I was back at work and it was ended up not being what my doctor wanted. The doctor's orders were not what they were having me do. And I felt like it might have been the case prior to it, but I followed orders and did what I was told. And when I went to a follow-up with my doctor said, "That's not at all what is your requirements or your abilities that I gave." And when I brought that up, I was told without so many words that I either did it and shut up or I went back out.
Okay, so you're basically telling me about what it is I wanted to ask you about. So I want to show you. I want to show you guys something that'll watch. That'll watch. Let's see.
Richmond Jail is short more than 100 sheriff's deputies. I spoke with more than a dozen current and former employees, some on camera, some off. They say they feared for their lives, been attacked, and claim the inmates run the jail.
There was an incident where I got my nose broken.
James Alexander, a former Richmond sheriff.
Stacy, we got frozen again with the video.
I am almost wondering, is somebody fooling with my laptop or some chips? I'm Chip. This has never happened. Let's get this.
The math is weird on that. I'm not going to argue.
Let's try this last video.
It's 6.
The jail is out of control right now.
Assaults on staff. Sheriff's deputies leaving.
They feared for their lives.
Taking action, 8 News investigates security concerns inside the city. Thursday at 6.
Okay, Chip. I'm done with the videos and I'm done with the pictures.
Okay.
I would think a job like that, but who am I? I would think a job like that would be like a job in the military. Your fellow officers would have your back. The person above you would have your back. The people above you would try to come up with something to make it a better atmosphere for both the inmates and the employees.
Absolutely. You would expect that.
Looking at those videos tells me, and this is just my opinion, that even with what you went through, some kind of way you work with what you got. You're lacking employees, and this is just me. Then I work with what I got and I try to, and if I can't do everything to the best of my ability, I really find it not very caring to have people above you, because you said to me there's a chain of command there like it is in other places, and no one's checking on you, and someone's expecting you, after being attacked from the back and hurt, to return to work and have no sympathy. I'm sorry, Chip.
I appreciate it.
I am sorry.
Even to an extent, during my time out as, going through physical therapy, I still had intentions of coming back. I didn't end up leaving until it became very obvious when I had to hire my own personal attorney for workers' comp to fight them because they were denying my workers' comp case. The PTSD, the city tried to deny. The sheriff's office tried to deny that I had PTSD. They tried to deny that I had a concussion. They tried to, deny these things and say that they didn't exist. And at that point, that's when I started to realize, okay, this isn't a family. This isn't what I thought it was. And it took a lot. And my mom would say this, my friends would say this. I never wanted to become the quote unquote bad guy or the whistleblower. That was not my intentions when I got injured and when I was out. I wanted to come back. I wanted to do my job. I wanted to prove a point that I could come back. And when I went to a workers' comp hearing and had to listen to the city and a sheriff's office representative attempt to demean my character to prove their point that I was a bad person, about why I didn't need the workers' comp. And out of their mouth, it came the words, well, all of this goes to show his character. So They were directly attacking my character at a workers' comp hearing that had nothing to do with my character. It had everything to do with the facts of the matter. And that's when it really proved to me that I was done. I wanted to still come back to prove that I could to myself, not to anybody else, but to prove to myself that I was, able to beat this and able to come back. But it was never about trying to be the bad guy. It didn't really become an issue that I really truly became passionate about until I really started understanding PTSD.
Okay,
And that's
so
what platforms really become. That's what I want to deal with.
wow. It's still like it was your passion and you went back because the average
Absolutely.
person, I'm not gonna lie to you. I would be afraid to turn my back, especially if I don't think anybody else has my back. I don't know that I would want to work somewhere where people aren't checking on me when I'm hurt because of my job. It reminds me of wow, people that pay tithes and go to church, they become sick, and the pastor, the deacon, no one checks on you, so the average person leaves the church. You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying?
You
Because
got to
you're
feel at home.
right, and
And the thing with law enforcement and first responders in general is it's not just feeling at home, but you spend 12 to 16 hours a day at that building, at that department with those people. You spend just as much, if not more, time with them than you do your family sometimes. So it really is about a family and a camaraderie because you're there all the time. Fire works 24-hour shifts. Fire is at work 24 to 48 hours at a time. Law enforcement works 12-hour shift on an average basis because of staffing across the nation. Law enforcement works 12s. So you're there 12 hours out of the day. You go home, you sleep 8 hours, you're home 4 hours.
you, you're a strong individual because from what I've been seeing on the news, and I tried, Chip, I really tried. I had some videos that I wanted to upload because in listening to your story and seeing what goes on, the partying by the inmates and everything that's going on, that's why the title of this is Who's in Charge? It's like my father said to me years ago when I asked my children, do you want this or do you want that? He said, who's in charge? So you're getting hurt. Other officers are getting hurt on the job. Who's in charge? This is crazy. And then you suffer because you're the one that got attacked and you're the one that has PTSD. Chip, if someone else is watching this and they've been hurt on the job or something traumatic has happened to them in their life, what is PTSD? I know you've said what you've gone through, but what is PTSD?
PTSD is post traumatic stress disorder. And it can be one event, it can be multiple events. A lot of first responder PTSD is a buildup of multiple events where, whether in the jail or in the street or in fire or in EMS, things happen. Police is a really good example, especially guys on the road, where when you go from seeing a car accident where maybe somebody got injured or somebody died to the next call you have is something as simple as a parent who can't handle their child and needs you to come talk to their kid. And now you've dealt with a death on a car accident and you've seen this traumatic incident. You have to then box that up, put it away, put on a normal face, and then walk out to this family and help this family like nothing ever happened. And you don't get time to deal with these incidents. I love being a first responder so much. I have such a passion for it that when I left law enforcement, once I got myself squared away and I was in a good spot, I went into EMS. I continue to serve my community as an EMT, and I'm looking to go into paramedic school, not because I want to be the hero, but because I truly care and I truly want to continue to serve my community and be involved with the people that I come to know and love as far as law enforcement guys and girls and fire. And it's become a really big thing for me that this PTSD that we see as first responders, we see traumatic stuff, we deal with traumatic stuff on a daily basis, and we don't get enough time to deal with it. And we are such type A personalities, I guess, where we don't want to admit that we're not okay. We bottle it up, we drink, we end up sabotaging relationships, we end up ruining our marriages, substance abuse, whatever it might be, because we don't want to accept that we're not okay and we need help.
Okay.
And that's my thing is it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to admit you need help. And there are places out there that will get you help. There are people out there that will help you. If your department won't, reach out. I'm more than happy to help anybody who needs help finding help. That's something I would love to be able to do.
You are passionate about your job and you're passionate about the story you're telling. These things that you listed for PTSD, Would you mind sharing with us? Because I can't imagine that you just left that job and immediately went to school. Um,
No.
okay. Can you tell us what happened to you because of this incident
Hmm.
that has you so passionate about it? Like the hardships.
So my family's first responder military. So PTSD is something that in my family, unfortunately, we've all kind of dealt with. And it sucks and it's hard. I isolated myself for a long time. I didn't want to leave the house. I had a couple really good, really close friends that would drag me out of the house. They would come to my house and get me and say, I don't care if we don't do anything. You're coming to my house and you're spending the weekend with me so that you're not at home by yourself. I didn't want to be around people. When I was super hyper vigilant. Took me a long time to learn how to trust again with just the people in general because I was afraid something was going to happen to me. I was depressed. I didn't have any kind of motivation to do anything. And these things you see slowly. You don't see them very quickly. You don't see them immediately. People tend to slowly start to withdraw, and you start to see these symptoms build up over time. And it becomes super, super important to address these issues and get help or help them get help, because if you don't, we self-sabotage. Flat out, we self-sabotage. I won't be ashamed to admit that for a while I was drinking really heavy. I've addressed that. I don't drink almost ever really now. I drink a couple, maybe once or twice a week, a couple drinks, but I addressed my issues. I got help with my issues. I got my counseling. And I want people to know that if your department, your agency won't help you, there are places out there that will help you. And there are places that will take you in and help you get into something else and help you recover your life. I won't put out exactly where I work, but I will say that I have been very open about everything that I'm doing now with putting my story out in public, with my PTSD and the fact that I do have that in my past. And they have been more than willing to work with me and to help me and to push me to grow. They paid for me to go to EMT school. They paid me while I was in EMT school. They trained me. And that's a program that they do for everybody. It's not just because I'm special. It's something that's out there for everybody, and it's something that can be done.
So if we didn't know how serious this was when it happened, we didn't know how serious this was because he returned to work, and we didn't pull together or we didn't reach out to see what you needed. Now that the story is out, now that you're telling how it affected you, it's on the news, so no one can say they didn't know about it. This establishment that you went into with a passion and then went back after being hurt, has it surrounded you now and brought forth things that could help you through what you're going through?
Financially, I struggled a lot. I went a while without a paycheck. Even when work comp was settled, I didn't get all of my work comp time back, so I didn't get all my back pay back. I lived off of borrowed money and credit cards. And so if people want to help, there is a GoFundMe set up. This is by no means me trying to beg for help or ask for help. That's not the type of person I am. It took me crying on the phone to my mother and father to say, hey guys, I need help. Like, I can't afford to live. I can't afford to pay my rent and put groceries in my fridge. I'm not that type of person to ask for a handout. I've never been that person. If people want to help, I have a GoFundMe. It's on the screen. They're more than welcome to. I will say this. If I do get help, whatever over I get from what I need, I'm going to put in some way, shape, or form towards PTSD for first responders. I'm not going to keep anything extra. I'm not looking to make a dime. I want to clear my debt and trying to fix my credit so that I can pursue my life more and finish up the things that I need to do and get out of the hole that I'm in. But past that, if it's extra money, it'll go to PTSD for first responders in some way, shape, or form. I'll donate it to a charity or pay for somebody to get help, whatever it might take. But I'm not looking for this as a handout. I'm looking for this as a way to get myself back on my feet financially and to hopefully help somebody else in the long run.
Chip, my last question. Since you came forward, you're gonna say, Stacy, stuck on this environment I was in. Since you've come forward, Chip, do you think it's gotten better? Do you think that people have learned something after seeing you on the news and seeing you go through being diagnosed with PTSD? Or do you think there could possibly see on the news they say there are other attacks going on in that jail?
And I know some of those people. I worked with several of those people. The most recent serious one, the female, I know her, and I know her well. And we work together a lot. And that tells me that things haven't changed.
Okay.
This is by no means a platform for me to come out and bash anybody. I don't want to do that.
I understand, and I don't want to bash anyone.
It's definitely not changed, and it needs to change in some way, shape, or form. Staffing, whatever it takes. I don't like seeing my brothers and sisters in uniform in the hospital, hurt, out of work, struggling with the things that I struggled with. I don't like it because it's not fair. It's not what we signed up for. Yes, we know the job we're getting into, but that's not, we don't sign up to go to work and get assaulted. You don't sign up to go to work and be put in the hospital. You sign up to go to work to do a job to serve the community. You understand the risk, but you don't go in expecting it. You don't deserve it by any means.
Okay, Chip, I don't want to hold you up. I'm seeing things, and I just want to know if you say true or false. Were the
Lost you again, Stacy.
I'm just gonna give up. I'm just gonna. I've held you too long. I've held you too long.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I appreciate the time. I'm with
looking,
you, though. I think there's a bug in your computer somewhere.
I'm looking at like the comments, and because people will say anything. Were the inmates given big screen TV and PlayStation to act right?
I don't know about PlayStations. That was a rumor I never saw. Never could confirm that one way or the other. They definitely had TVs. Granted, there is a necessity to have access to like local news and things like that. But there definitely were, TVs. There were vending machines. They got tablets. There were things in there that were above and beyond what was necessary to meet standards for the facility that were given. And then there were program pods that had additional things that were for being in certain programs and that kind of thing. Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so we got those things, but we're not putting extra money into the deputy that worked hard and came here with a passion to help us out. This is just what I'm gathering. So if there's anyone, and obviously we have quite a few folks on here that wanted to hear about this, if anyone wants to donate to Chip to assist him, like Chip said, and I don't think anybody took this like as if you're begging. I look at it as seeing a man that has a passion, and you have not stopped public service. You are going to continue public service, but just in a different department.
I start paramedic school at the end of the month.
Okay. So if there's anybody, and that's a great thing, that wants to donate to help Chip Davis after hearing his story, hey, if this isn't enough for you from this interview, then you Google things yourself and find out why you should help. Chip Davis, www.gofund.com, and it's assist former Deputy Davis after attack at jail. I'm going to tell you people who don't normally follow me. If you can't fight for what I fight for someone or something. And if you have nothing that you can think of to fight for or anyone, Chip Davis is on here sharing his story. Help him out. Chip, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me
With,
tell my story.
with all of my questions, was there anything that I did not give you a chance to say?
No, I want to leave it with it's okay to not be okay. As a first responder, it's okay to need help. It's
Okay.
okay to know that you're not okay, and it's okay to ask for it. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're wrong. Go get your help, take care of yourself, and you'll be a better person for it.
And I am wishing you the very best, Chip Davis.
Thank you so
And
much, Stacy. I appreciate it.
you take care of yourself, okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. My show went out a couple of times, and I see you guys are still here. I am Stacy Thomas, once again, Unrestricted Unlimited. If you would like to know more about me, head over to YouTube, check out the Stacy Thomas Unrestricted Unlimited Talk Show. It is exactly what it says, how it reads, Unrestricted Unlimited. I cover a variety of topics. And as always, I like to remind you, don't stress too much about yesterday. Don't worry too much about tomorrow, or you might miss living today. And because of today's show, do not forget, you don't have to fight for what I fight for. I'm an ALS/Lou Gehrig's disease advocate. You don't have to fight for what I fight for, but pick someone or something to fight for. Have a great one.